into this explosive confrontation that ended with security being called and Julia Roberts storming off set. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because this story is absolutely wild. The tension in the studio was palpable from the moment Julia Roberts walked onto the View set. She had come on to promote her latest film, a heartfelt drama about working mothers trying to balance career and family. What should have been a routine promotional appearance quickly turned into something much more sinister when Joy Behar decided to make it personal. So Julia, Joy began with that signature smirk that regular viewers know all too well. Your new movie is about working mothers, but let's talk about your real life. You've been married 3 times now, and some people are saying that maybe you're not the best example of stability for working mothers to look up to. The other co-hosts shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Whoopi Goldberg shot Joy a warning look, but Joy was already locked and loaded for what was clearly a premeditated attack. Julia's smile faltered for just a moment before she composed herself. Well, Joy, I think my personal life is separate from the message of this film, which is really about supporting women in all their endeavors, whether that's in the workplace or at home. But is it really separate? Joy pressed on, leaning forward like a shark that had smelled blood in the water. I mean, you're asking mothers to spend their hard-earned money on a movie ticket to see you portray something that, let's be honest, you haven't exactly mastered yourself. The studio audience began to murmur. This wasn't the typical celebrity fluff piece they had expected. Sarah Haynes tried to jump in with a softball question about Julia's co-stars, but Joy bulldozed right over her. And speaking of your marriages, Joy continued with obvious relish, your current husband was married to someone else when you started dating him, wasn't he? Some might call that home-wrecking behavior. How do you reconcile that with playing these morally upstanding characters? Julia's famous smile completely disappeared now. Her voice took on an edge that anyone who had followed her career would recognize as dangerous territory. Joy, I came here to talk about a film that celebrates women supporting each other, and instead you're trying to tear me down with gossip and half-truths. Is this really what The View has become? Half-truths? Joy laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. These are facts, Julia. Public record. Your first marriage lasted less than 2 years. Your second marriage ended when you left your husband for a married man? And now you want to lecture American women about family values? The other co-hosts were now frantically trying to signal to the producers to cut to commercial. Whoopi was making throat-slashing gestures, but the cameras kept rolling because the producers knew they had television gold on their hands. Julia stood up slightly in her chair, her hands gripping the arms tightly. You know what, Joy? I've been in this business for over 30 years, and I've dealt with my share of bullies and small-minded people who try to build themselves up by tearing others down. But I've never sat across from someone so desperate for relevance that they would ambush a guest with personal attacks just to get a few headlines. Ambush? Joy's voice rose an octave. This is journalism, sweetheart. Maybe you're just not used to someone asking you real questions instead of kissing your famous behind. The audience was dead silent now. You could hear a pin drop in that studio. Even the crew members had stopped what they were doing to watch this train wreck unfold in real time. Julia's voice became deadly quiet, which anyone who knew her work knew was far more threatening than if she had started yelling. Journalism? Is that what you call this character assassination masquerading as an interview? Because real journalists do their homework, Joy. They ask informed questions about the work, not tabloid gossip designed to humiliate their guests. Oh, please. Joy waved her hand dismissively. Don't try to high-road me with your holier-than-thou attitude. You're an actress, not Mother Teresa. You play pretend for a living and get paid millions for it. The least you can do is answer honest questions about your very public personal life. Honest questions? Julia's laugh was sharp and humorless. There's nothing honest about what you're doing here. This is a hit job, plain and simple. And frankly, I'm embarrassed for you that this is what you think passes for meaningful television. Joy's face was turning red now. She clearly hadn't expected Julia to fight back with such intensity. You know what? Maybe if you weren't so sensitive about your past choices, you could handle a little scrutiny. But I guess when you're used to everyone treating you like Hollywood royalty, being asked real questions feels like an attack. Real questions? Julia's voice was getting louder now, her famous composure finally cracking. You want to know what real questions look like, Joy? How about asking why you feel the need to attack other women to make yourself feel better? How about examining why you think tearing down successful women is entertainment? The studio had become a powder keg, and Joy Behar had just lit the fuse, her face contorted with rage at Julia's pointed questions about her own behavior. How dare you? Joy slammed her hand on the desk, causing her coffee mug to rattle. I've been doing this for decades while you were still waiting tables in Georgia. Don't you dare question my integrity or my methods. Julia remained surprisingly calm despite the explosion happening across from her. Integrity? Joy, you've spent the last 10 minutes trying to embarrass me on national television with personal attacks that have nothing to do with why I'm here. If that's your definition of integrity, then we have very different value systems. Value systems? Joy's voice was shrill now, completely abandoning any pretense of professional decorum. That's rich coming from someone who built her career on playing America's sweetheart while behaving like anything but behind the scenes. Whoopi finally found her voice and tried to intervene. Joy? Maybe we should take a step back here. And no. Joy cut her off without even looking in her direction. I'm tired of these Hollywood prima donnas coming on our show thinking they can control the narrative. This is The View, not entertainment tonight. Julia's eyes flashed with genuine anger now. Prima donna? I've been nothing but respectful since I walked onto this set. You're the one who decided to ambush me with tabloid garbage instead of having a meaningful conversation about the work. The work? Joy laughed bitterly. Your work is playing dress-up and reading lines someone else wrote for you. My work is asking the tough questions that other people are too scared to ask. Tough questions? Julia's voice rose for the first time. There's nothing tough about gossip, Joy. Tough questions would be about the themes of the film, about working mothers in America, about the challenges women face in Hollywood. What you're doing is just cruel. The other co-hosts were now visibly uncomfortable. Sarah Haynes was practically hiding behind her notes, while Sunny Hostin looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. The producers were frantically talking into their headsets, but nobody seemed willing to pull the plug on what was becoming the most explosive segment in the show's history. Joy leaned back in her chair with a satisfied smirk. Oh, so now I'm cruel? Because I won't pretend your personal life doesn't matter when you're trying to sell tickets to a family movie? My personal life has nothing to do with this film, Julia shot back. But since you seem so interested in personal lives, let's talk about yours. How many co-hosts have quit this show because of the toxic work environment you create? How many guests have sworn never to come back because of the way you treat people? Joy's smirk vanished instantly. That's completely inappropriate. This interview is about you, not me. Really? Julia tilted her head with mock innocence. I thought this was about asking tough questions. Or do those rules only apply when you're the one asking them? The tension in the room was suffocating now. Camera operators were zooming in, capturing every micro-expression on both women's faces. The audience sat in stunned silence, unable to look away from the car crash happening before their eyes. Joy's voice became dangerously low. You know what your problem is, Julia? You think your movie star status makes you untouchable? Well, here's a news flash. You're just another celebrity with a messy personal life trying to sell us something. Julia stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor with a harsh sound that echoed through the silent studio. And you know what your problem is, Joy? You're a bitter woman who's built a career on tearing other women down, and you're so threatened by successful women that you can't help but try to destroy them. Threatened? Joy was on her feet now too, facing Julia across the desk. By you? Don't flatter yourself. You're a has-been trying to stay relevant with a feel-good movie nobody's going to see. The words hung in the air like a slap. Julia's face went completely white, then flushed red with fury. A has-been? I've won more awards and touched more lives with my work than you ever will with your mean-spirited attacks on this third-rate talk show. Third-rate? Joy's voice cracked with indignation. This show has been on the air for over 20 years. It's an institution. You're just another flash in the pan who got lucky with a few romantic comedies. Lucky? Julia's laugh was pure venom now. I've worked my entire life to get where I am. I've earned every role, every accolade, every moment of success through talent and dedication. What have you earned besides a reputation as the nastiest person on daytime television. The other co-hosts were now openly panicking. Whoopi was making desperate hand signals to the control room, while Sarah was whispering urgently to a producer who had appeared at the edge of the set. But the two women at the center of the storm were completely oblivious to everything except their mutual hatred. Joy pointed a shaking finger at Julia. "At least I'm authentic. I don't put on a fake smile and pretend to be someone I'm not. I tell the truth, even when it's uncomfortable." "Authentic?" Julia's voice dripped with disdain. "There's nothing authentic about being cruel for entertainment. There's nothing truthful about attacking people to boost your own ego. You're not a truth teller, Joy. You're a bully with a microphone." The word bully seemed to trigger something primal in Joy. Her face contorted with rage, and she took a step around the desk toward Julia. "How dare you call me a bully? I'm the one asking the questions that need to be asked while everyone else kisses celebrity ass." Julia didn't back down an inch. If anything, she moved closer to Joy, her voice deadly quiet but clearly audible to everyone in the studio. "You want to know what questions need to be asked? Here's one. What kind of person uses their platform to humiliate guests for ratings? What kind of journalist attacks someone's personal life instead of discussing their professional work?" The confrontation had reached a boiling point, with both women now standing face to face across the desk, their voices carrying clearly through the dead, silent studio. Joy's face was crimson with rage as Julia's words hit their mark. "You think you're so smart with your little questions," Joy snarled, her voice shaking with fury. "But I know exactly what you are. You're a manipulative actress who's used men to climb the ladder, and now you want to play victim when someone calls you out on it." Julia's eyes narrowed to slits. "Used men? Is that your professional opinion, Dr. Behar? Or are you just projecting your own insecurities onto me because deep down you know that everything I said about you is true?" "Insecurities?" Joy let out a harsh laugh that sounded more like a bark. "The only thing I'm insecure about is having to share a set with someone who thinks she's too good to answer honest questions about her very public mistakes." "Mistakes?" Julia's voice rose to match Joy's volume. "My mistakes are learning experiences. Your mistakes are broadcast to millions of people every single day. The mistake of thinking cruelty is journalism. The mistake of believing that tearing people down makes you important. End of chapter." Joy slammed her palm on the desk so hard that pens and papers scattered. "Important? Lady, I've been important since before you were even famous. I was doing real television when you were still hoping for your big break." "Real television?" Julia laughed, but there was no humor in it. "This isn't real television, Joy. This is a circus, and you're the main clown. Real television would involve asking me about the message of empowerment in my film, about the struggles of working mothers, about anything meaningful. Instead, you chose to attack my personal relationships like some gossip columnist." The other co-hosts had given up any pretense of trying to control the situation. Whoopi was speaking rapidly into her earpiece, while Sarah and Sunny looked like they were witnessing a car accident in slow motion. Producers were now visible at the edge of the set, clearly debating whether to cut the cameras or let this train wreck continue. Joy's voice became even more vicious. "You want to know what's meaningful? It's meaningful when public figures are held accountable for their actions, instead of being treated like royalty just because they're famous." "Accountable?" Julia's voice cracked with incredulous anger. "Accountable for what? For being human? For making personal choices that have nothing to do with my professional work? You're not holding anyone accountable, Joy. You're just being vindictive because you can." "Vindictive?" Joy stepped closer, her face twisted with contempt. "I'm being honest. Something you clearly wouldn't recognize if it hit you in your perfectly surgically enhanced face." The studio gasped collectively. Even for Joy Behar, this was crossing a line that nobody had expected. Julia's mouth fell open in shock before her expression hardened into something truly dangerous. "Did you just—" Julia's voice was barely above a whisper, but somehow it carried throughout the entire studio. "Attack my appearance on national television." Joy seemed to realize she had gone too far, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. "I'm just saying that maybe someone who's had as much work done as you have shouldn't be lecturing the rest of us about authenticity." The silence that followed was deafening. Julia stood perfectly still for a long moment, and when she finally spoke, her voice was ice cold. "You know what, Joy? I've dealt with difficult people throughout my entire career. I've worked with demanding directors, egotistical co-stars, and ruthless producers. But I have never, in 30 years in this business, encountered anyone as unprofessional, as cruel, and as pathetically insecure as you are right now. Joy's face went purple. How dare you call me insecure? You're the one who can't handle a few tough questions without falling apart. Tough questions? Julia's composure finally snapped completely. You want tough questions? Here's a tough question for you, Joy. When you go home tonight and look in the mirror, are you proud of what you see? Are you proud that you used your platform today to try to humiliate a guest? Are you proud that you've turned what should have been a conversation about empowering women into a personal attack? Joy was breathing heavily now, her hands shaking with rage. Don't you dare try to turn this around on me. You came on this show knowing exactly what kind of questions we ask here. I came on this show expecting professional journalism, not a personal vendetta disguised as an interview. Julia shot back. And you know what the saddest part is? You had an opportunity today to have a meaningful conversation about issues that matter to women across America. Instead, you chose to be petty, mean-spirited, and cruel. That's not journalism, Joy. That's just sad. The word sad seemed to be the final straw for Joy. She pointed a trembling finger at Julia and screamed, "Get out! Get out of my studio right now!" Julia stared at her in disbelief. Your studio? This isn't your studio, Joy. This is supposed to be a place for meaningful discourse, not your personal attack platform. I said get out. Joy's voice cracked as she screamed even louder. Security. I want her removed from the set immediately. Whoopi finally stood up, her voice cutting through the chaos. Joy, what are you doing? You can't just kick a guest off the show. Watch me, Joy snarled, never taking her eyes off Julia. I'm not going to sit here and be lectured by some washed-up actress who thinks she's better than everyone else. Julia gathered her purse with deliberate calm, her movements precise and controlled despite the chaos erupting around her. You're right about one thing, Joy. I am better than this. I'm better than participating in whatever this pathetic display is supposed to be. 2 security guards had appeared at the edge of the set, looking confused and unsure about what they were supposed to do. The producers were in heated discussion, clearly torn between stopping the madness and recognizing that they had television gold on their hands. Joy was still pointing at Julia, her voice hoarse from screaming. That's right, run away, just like you always do when someone calls you out on your BS. Julia stopped walking and turned back to face Joy one final time. Her voice was steady now, controlled, but filled with unmistakable contempt. I'm not running away, Joy. I'm choosing not to dignify this circus with my presence any longer. There's a difference, though I don't expect you to understand it. Don't you dare walk away from me, Joy shrieked. I'm not done with you yet. Julia's smile was cold as winter. Oh, but I'm done with you. Completely and utterly done. And I think America is going to be done with you too, after they see how you've behaved today. She turned and walked toward the exit with her head held high, her heels clicking authoritatively on the studio floor. Joy continued screaming behind her. Good riddance. Don't bother coming back. This show doesn't need pretentious actresses who can't handle real questions. Julia paused at the edge of the set and called back without turning around. Real questions require real journalists, Joy. Maybe someday you'll figure out the difference. And with that, Julia Roberts walked off the View set, leaving behind a studio in complete chaos, co-hosts in stunned silence, and Joy Behar still screaming at an empty chair. The cameras kept rolling as Joy continued her tirade, seemingly unaware that she was destroying her own reputation with every word. Whoopi was frantically trying to get her to stop, but Joy was beyond reason now. Let her go, Joy panted, finally collapsing back into her chair. We don't need people like that on this show anyway. But as the reality of what had just happened began to sink in, and as she saw the horrified expressions on her co-hosts' faces and the frantic activity of the producers, Joy Behar began to realize that she might have just made the biggest mistake of her television career. The segment that was supposed to be a simple movie promotion had turned into a complete disaster, and it was all captured on camera for the world to see.